If you want to see a different kind of film study, check out my movie channel. I just posted a video talking about the movie Barbarian and why the twist works, so definitely make sure you check that out. The link is in the description below. And anyways, back to your regularly scheduled video. Well, unfortunately, this is not a film study. As you can see, this is just my face. This was intended to be a film study, so I actually made two film studies. One about not Lamar Jackson, but about Tyler Huntley and how the Ravens offense will attack the Bengals defense. And then I made another one the other way around, Joe Burrow. All this exciting stuff. Was very excited to post it, and then for some reason something went wrong with Sony Vegas Pro. The thing crashed for whatever reason, and the file was just, I couldn't get the file, and I made it all in one file, so they were both gone. Very disappointed about that because I was excited to get it out, but I just don't think I'll have time to make another, two film studies and get that out before the game. So I'm just not gonna, I'm going to do this instead, which is just, give my thoughts, kind of what I said in that film study, just so at least I get some content out about this game. Disappointed, but I still think, we can still have some fun talking about the Ravens and the Bengals. I actually think, so let's just jump into it. I actually think that I think the Ravens stand a chance in this game. I said this on the podcast. I don't think this is going to be a complete blowout the way some people are saying. Yes, not having Lamar is a huge deal. There's no denying that. Although it's worth mentioning, they beat the Bengals earlier on this year when Lamar didn't particularly play that well. He had just 174 yards on 32 attempts, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. So it can be, and he only had 4.8 yards per carry in that game as well. So it's not like with Tyler Huntley out there, the Ravens are screwed. I think that this is the one team that actually matches up pretty nicely defensively against the Bengals because they have good corners. And again, maybe this will be a good Tyler Boyd game. It is worth mentioning that the last time they played, there was no T. Higgins in that one. But it's still a team that, they probably won't have a ton of one-on-one matchups with Jamar Chase. And when they do, because you have to have some one-on-one matchups. And when you do, you have Marlon Humphrey, who actually covered Chase very well in that game. So I think that's kind of the main factor, is this is a team that can defend the Bengals well compared to a lot of other teams. Again, it's the Bengals, right? Jamar Chase is going to get some yards. T. Higgins is going to get some yards. Joe Burrow is going to make some plays. That's just what they do. But I think that there's a chance that the Bengals could slow that down enough to at least give their offense a chance. That's kind of what I think. And this is another type of situation where you could see the Zach Taylor of it. Kyle brought it up on the podcast. It's a good point. You could see Zach Taylor say, well, we got to establish the run in this one. That feels like, Taylor hasn't been as bad of it doing that this year as he was last year, especially early on last year. But there still is some concern about that. You don't want to turn this into a running game because that's definitely advantage Baltimore. You want to throw the ball as much as possible, but with some good and opportunistic corners in the Ravens secondary, they actually match up okay there. Now, the flip side is, Bengals fans are going to say, great, but we have a superstar quarterback in Joe Burrow. They don't even have their starting quarterback, probably. Now, from what I understand, the door has still been left open that Lamar Jackson could potentially come back. It just seems highly, highly unlikely that Lamar Jackson will come back, given, the fact that he, has not been practicing. So, won't be healthy, has not been practicing, but at the same time, if he's available, maybe you just throw him out there because he is Lamar. He is that good, and he's so good at playmaking, even if he doesn't have the first team reps. You expect him to still be okay. But let's play it out as though it would be Tyler Huntley out there instead. That would be a massive disadvantage. Now, one thing that they have going for them is Mark Andrews, who, if they play a lot of zone, seems like Andrews can get into those gaps in zone very effectively, which is probably what the Bengals will do, probably what the Ravens will do. I expect Andrews to have a big game. And if the Baltimore Ravens are going to pull off this upset, it's going to be probably through the strength of Mark Andrews. I think that's what they're going to do that. Now, again, it's tough. The Bengals can still find ways to cover that well. I don't think that this is a guarantee that Mark Andrews will just get open consistently. Just saying I can see it. The other interesting factor is going to be just the running game, not just the traditional running game. That should be effective for the Ravens for sure. but also with quarterback scrambles, as again, Huntley is not Lamar, but he still can move, although sometimes it goes in the opposite direction as well. Sometimes he runs himself into trouble, which Lamar doesn't do too often. Again, if you're running quarterback, you're going to do it some, but Lamar's a lot better at it than Huntley, I would say. And so for Hubbard and Hendrickson, the two good Bengals edge rushers, a lot of their game might not necessarily be rushing the passer, but it might actually be the other side of the ball, or other side of their game. When they're in pass defense, kind of one of the main things they might have to do is just containment and limiting damage on scrambles. That's going to be a key factor. Pass rush on the other side is a concern, as the Ravens have just, the reality is they've been ineffective at rushing the passer this year. And when you talk about Joe Burrow, kind of his kryptonite, his one weakness is he takes too many sacks, right? That's his issue. But for Baltimore, will they be able to capitalize on that too much? In some areas, yes, because they'll force Burrow to hold on to the football for far too long. That's definitely advantage Baltimore and something that they could potentially have some success with. But the issue is, even if Burrow's holding on to the ball for a while, will the pass rush get there in time to get pressure and to get those sacks and to get a forced fumble or something? I don't know. And even with the Bengals, banged up offensive line, I just don't know if they'll be able to do that. So, that's kind of the main takeaways that I had when going over the tape and looking up all the stats and all that stuff. All right, predictions time. So the Bengals defense on the season gives up 1.84 points per drive, whereas the Baltimore Ravens offense scores 2.1 points per drive on the season. In the first matchup, the Ravens scored 19 points in 9 drives the first time, and then 16 points in 15 drives. It was a very weird second game. Of course, that's the game where there was a lot of, the starters did not play. The Ravens scored 1.5 total points per drive combined in those two games, but it was 2.1 points per drive in just the first matchup. So kind of worth noting there. So my prediction is I'm going with 1.7 points per drive. I don't think it'll be quite as good as it was when Lamar was out there, but I still think they'll be okay. Again, they scored 1.5 with their third stringers out there. I don't think 1.7 is that big of a jump. I think it'll be a higher drive game, so I'm saying 20 points in 12 drives. Will 20 points be enough for the Baltimore Ravens to beat the Bengals? Well, over here, the answer is no, but it at least is keeping it somewhat competitive. My reasoning, again, Ravens defense, like the Bengals defense, has been pretty good this year, 1.8 points per drive on the season. The Bengals offense, though, has just been a juggernaut at times with a 2.56 points per drive on the season. That's that's really good. It's one of the better offenses in football. It's not historically great or anything like that, but it's very good. The points per drive in the first matchups is a combined total of 2 points per drive, so I think they'll do a little bit better than that in this game. I'm predicting 2.2 points per drive, which would be 26 total points if it's a 12-drive game, so I don't think it'll be a blowout necessarily. I do think the Ravens defense should be able to keep them in it to some degree, and I do think that, Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins are going to have to make plays to be able to score. And I think, the flip side is, will the Ravens be able to move the ball offensively? Listen, I would not be shocked if at the end of this, the Ravens just completely failed to move the ball, and that's the reason the Bengals win. I think that's a possibility, but I think that they'll be okay to score some points and keep it close. But I do still think the Bengals win. I think the Bengals are amazing. I think the Bengals might be the best team in football. I wouldn't be shocked at all if they win the Super Bowl this year. I just think it's a tough first matchup going up against Baltimore, a division rival who has beaten you before this season. Should be an interesting playoff game. That's what I think. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.